Yo guys, it's 3 a.m. right now, and I decided, you know what? We should make a video about P2 Biology IGCSE questions. Don't mind the mic quality. Now, I found this document which contains like apparently the hardest P2 questions, so let's go over it.
The apparatus shown was used to investigate aerobic respiration in seeds. TK was placed in a dark room. All environment conditions were kept constant. What happens in the apparatus? Basically, हमारे पास हो क्या रहा है? We see that there are seeds soaked in water. We see there is a wire mesh through which a chemical which absorbs the gas produced by the seeds. ठीक है? And there's a colored liquid. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind is कि ये dark room में हो रहा है. So what does that indicate? That indicates that seeds में जो है ना, obviously photosynthesis तो नहीं हो रहा होगा. It's going to be aerobic respiration. ठीक है? In aerobic respiration, we have glucose plus oxygen, which forms carbon dioxide plus water. Okay, and we can see that this carbon dioxide is gonna get trapped by the chemical over here. So that's about it. Ab kya hoga? Since aerobic respiration will be needing oxygen, it's going to be taking an oxygen from the tube itself. तो इधर से oxygen जो होगा ना वो सारा इधर जा रहा होगा इस तरह, ठीक है? And essentially, where is this oxygen even coming from? This oxygen is also coming from the outside. So we can see कि oxygen बाहर से भी अंदर आ सकता है इस तरह. So these are all the conditions that we have explained. कि जो भी carbon dioxide release होगा, that's going to get absorbed, so that doesn't really matter. What matters is the oxygen, which is moving in this direction. The gas is taken in, and obviously oxygen in दोनों को cancel out कर दो. Gas absorbed by the chemical in the wire mesh, obviously carbon dioxide है. And direction of movement of the curd liquid, it's going to be towards the seed because the oxygen is going to start moving inwards, and that's going to push the liquid towards the seeds. Why is yeast used in bread making? Simple concept है कि anaerobic respiration of yeast produces carbon dioxide. Because the carbon dioxide that's going to get produced, so the glucose breaks down to form ethanol plus carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is going to get released and it will cause the dough to rise. Diagram shows a seedling growing inside a dark box. What type of response affects the direction? So we have two types of tropic responses, gravitropism and phototropism. So gravitropism usually occurs in the roots, whereas phototropism usually occurs in the shoots. तो अगर हम इधर देखें तो roots पे obviously gravitropism ही होगा. This does not work by phototropism. And when it comes to the shoots, we can see that this is growing in a dark box. There is no light stimulus for the shoot to grow into. अगर हमारे पास इधर एक light source होता तो शायद root इस तरफ grow करता. But since this is a dark box, the only stimulus that the shoot receives is the gravity. Okay, so the gravity is going to be pulling the shoot downwards. And that's why you'll see K. This shoot is influenced by both gravitropism at the level of root and the shoot. Okay, so what is correct? Question 34. Which statements are correct during both natural selection and artificial selection? So natural selection is basically the process through which एक organism आता है population में which has a selective advantage over the rest of them and it starts reproducing and passing its alleles onward to the offsprings. But artificial ये होता है कि the people, humans naturally select those two organisms that have the best characteristics और उनको breed करते जाते हैं. So we'll obviously see that 2 is the right answer for both of these, and that's because only certain individuals reproduce. That is not correct. I mean, सारे individuals reproduce कर रहे होंगे. And when it comes to the only certain individuals, that mainly applies to artificial selection. Natural selection is a random hota hai na? And organisms do not compete with each other for survival. That is also not true. Natural selection mein, they are competing against each other. So fermenters must have carefully controlled conditions. Which condition has the correct reason? Fermenters need a correct pH to be optimum for enzyme activity. Supply oxygen for anaerobic, ये तो गलत है ये, because again, oxygen is for aerobic. Glucose, waste products to be removed, that doesn't make sense. Glucose is for anaerobic respiration. Amino acids is for protein synthesis, so it's going to be D. Okay, next up we have question 5. इसमें हमारे पास ये setup हुआ है and we are asked कि जो glass tube है, is the water moving up or down? So in this case scenario, you can see that sugar solution है. So obviously inside इसका water potential low होगा compared to the outside, which is going to be high because sugar solution are solutes. जितना ज़्यादा solute होता है, जितना ज़्यादा solute concentration बढ़ता है, that indicates that there is less water molecules, so less water potential. We can see that water will then start moving from the beaker into the sugar solution inside, और इसकी वजह से जो है ना glass tube थोड़ा ऊपर की तरफ बढ़ेगा. So we can see that it's going to go up. So it's not these guys. So the glass tube goes up because the water had a dash water potential than the sugar solution. It's going to be higher. Obviously higher is the stream moving, you know. So we can see over here in this question we're investigating gas exchange in aquatic plants. Hydrogen carbonate indicator solution क्या होता है? This is basically we're going to measure the levels of carbon dioxide. अब इस solution में क्या हो रहा है कि we have a light source, and as a result of this light source we're going to have photosynthesis. ठीक है? And you need to know that the level of photosynthesis will be greater than respo. Why is it greater than respiration? That's because light source there is probably oxygen and carbon dioxide available in this solution. तो क्या अगर जो भी carbon dioxide इस solution में होगा, that's going to start moving inwards. Why? Because the plant takes the carbon dioxide, mixes it with water that it is surrounded with, aquatic plant to convert glucose into glucose and oxygen. So over here we can see that after 3 hours we're going to see that this becomes a bit purplish क्योंकि carbon dioxide के levels कम हो जाते हैं. Okay, question 19. The cholera bacterium toxin causes dehydration. So which statement explains this? Let's go over the options. We're going to have chloride ions are secreted into the small intestine. This is correct. Where they increase the water potential, this is not correct. They're going to decrease the water potential. इसका basically ये mechanism होता है कि I've drawn this over here. Let's say this blue is the small intestine. ठीक है. We can see that the small intestine is surrounded by a bunch of villi. Basically we can see that cholera जो होता है ना, cholera basically causes the release of toxins which causes chloride ions to be secreted into the lumen intestine में. ठीक है. So because of that the water potential decreases और बाहर वैसे ही ज़्यादा होता है, so water starts moving into the intestine. So we're going to see that chloride ions are secreted which causes water to move into the intestine. Which parents could produce offsprings with a blood group O? So basically heterozygous father with blood group A and heterozygous mother with blood group B. Heterozygous का क्या मतलब होता है कि the alleles are not the same. So a heterozygous father will look something like blood group AO in his genes. I वाली gene जो होती है. Basically we write it in this form, IA, IO. But for simplicity's sake, we're going to say AO, and heterozygous mother would be BO. So we can see that if we Punnett square बनाए, it's going to be AB, it's going to be BO, which is basically blood group B, blood group O, and then we can see O forming here, so it should just be A. बाकी options को like ज़रूरत भी नहीं है देखने की, because like we already know कि A जो है ना वो O ही बनाएगा. Next up we have which adaptation may be present in a xerophyte. Xerophytes क्या होते हैं? These are basically plants which are adapted to living in dry conditions, जैसे cactus हो गया, or like the plants in the deserts basically. ठीक है. तो क्या होता है कि हमारे पास इसकी क्या adaptations हो सकते हैं? Let's go over these. Little or no xylem tissue and leaves with large surface area. This is not correct because we want the surface area to be as less as possible ताकि हमारे पास transpiration जो है ना that's minimized. What is transpiration? Loss of water. So we don't want water to be lost essentially. Leaves with small surface area and large number of stomata. Okay, this part is correct, but this part makes no sense because we want the stomata to be less in number ताकि कम पानी loss हो. That's essentially it. So it's not A as well. A could have been correct, but then they included this as one of the answers. Thin or no cuticle and deep roots. Thin or no cuticle is not going to be good because that's going to increase transpiration. Basically, cuticle is going to be a watery layer, like a mucus sticky सा layer होता है that stops water from being lost. तो अगर बहुत ही कम cuticle है तो फिर it's not going to work. Then we're left with C. So basically C का ये scene है कि when the leaves are rolled like this, for example, हमारे पास एक leaf है इस तरह का, तो क्या होता है कि what this does is कि sometimes moisture can get trapped between these rolled leaves. And same thing with the stomatal hairs, जो बाल निकल रहे होते हैं plants में से, which is a very weird thing to think about. They can trap air between them and like moisture. और इससे क्या होता है? This basically reduces the concentration difference of the water vapors. जिससे diffusion कम हो जाती है. In which region of the alimentary canal is maltose digested? तो maltose किधर होता है? We have a bunch of options here. It's going to be the small intestine. Why? Because small intestine has pancreatic juices being released into it, और इन juices में से एक हमारे पास pancreatic amylase होता है. Humidity and wind speed are two factors that affect the rate of transpiration. How do these factors affect the concentration gradient of water molecules between the inside and outside? When there's high humidity, what happens is it lowers the concentration gradient, so raises तो नहीं होगा, and high wind speed raises it. Let's talk about why. Let's say we have a leaf over here, और इस leaf में हमारे पास जो नीचे वाली layer होती है which has stomata obviously. Let's say these are stomata. ठीक है, तो अंदर भी पानी होता है. Let's say these are water molecules. See inside the thickness of the leaf, basically the leaf की जो layers होते हैं structures, उनमें पानी है. Outside हमारे पास water vapor भी होगा, that's also water. So if there's high humidity, just think about it, बाहर ज़्यादा पानी है और अंदर भी पानी है, so won't that reduce the concentration difference? Like for example, अगर हमारे पास एक पहाड़ी है that looks something like this, or outside we have something like this, when that person falls, he's gonna fall a greater distance, a faster speed, diffusion बहुत तेजी से होगी. But अगर inside वही amount of पानी है और बाहर थोड़ा सा बड़ा हुआ है, you can see the person's just gonna fall at a slower speed and land. So that analogy just goes to show कि हमारे पास इधर बहुत ज़्यादा concentration difference है और हमारे पास इधर बहुत कम concentration difference है. That's why in high humidity there's gonna be there's basically gonna be less transpiration क्योंकि it lowers the concentration gradient. Or high wind speed पे opposite होगा, when there's more wind moving, the wind that's moving, that's gonna push away these water molecules, leaving behind basically zero water surrounding the leaf. जिसकी वजह से बहुत ज़्यादा concentration difference हो जाएगा and it's gonna start moving out quicker. Which statement describes what happens during the transmission of an electrical impulse? ठीक है, during a reflex arc. Reflex arc में क्या होता है? Let's remember, we have a stimulus that's going to send impulses to the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron is going to go to the level of the spinal cord. Let's say it's the spinal cord. ठीक है, here we have the spinal cord. Here the spinal cord is going to again form another synapse with a relay neuron, and the relay neuron is going to form a synapse with a motor neuron. इससे जाके motor जो है ना, वो जाके muscle को affect करेगा. Let's say this is a muscle that causes contraction. So over here, the relay neuron receptors can bind with neurotransmitter molecules. That is correct, because in a synapse, हमारे पास एक pre-synaptic होता है और एक post-synaptic होता है. In the post-synaptic, we have receptor proteins, and pre-synaptic is going to be where the neurotransmitters are released. So A looks like the right answer. Relay neurons has vesicles which bind with neurotransmitter molecules. No, not the vesicles. Vesicles are just going to store the neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters वो चीज़ होते हैं जो bind करते हैं. Sensory neuron causes receptor proteins to release neurotransmitter molecules. That's not true, because receptor proteins will bind to it, not release it. Sensory neuron impulses cause vesicles to release. Okay, this is also not true. Just remember कि vesicles neurotransmitters को release करते हैं, वो जाके जो है ना receptor proteins पे जाके bind करते हैं.